a minute. Where's my boy Sova? Give me Sova, put the lights on. Oh yeah, that's better. Привет. Amazing darts, how sweet they sound when raining down from the sky. You planted staring at the ground, and for that you deserve to die. The owl is my only trusted friend, taking flight in dire need. A hunter needs a helping hand, so his enemies will bleed. My abilities give me control through wars I always kill. I live for the hunter's heart and soul till the end. I always will. Till the end, I always will.
First Strike Europe has been a hell of a ride. We laughed, we cried, we searched far and wide for the kings of EU, the best of the best. At the main event, 8 teams were put to the test. It seemed that Liquid was sure to succeed with Scream, but 89 frags weren't quite enough, and all they had left was a dream.
Orgless. They brought out Viper for Boo, but that wasn't going to cut it when you play against G2.
Purple Cobras run out of venom, for SUMN's Viper is somewhat of a phantom. The team underdog that put a good fight, but few can match up to Mystic Snake's bites.
Now, Penky Zeke is a star in the making, but Angel's brain made their situation heartbreaking. FPX made it look easy, but little did they know their next challenge would be leaving them a bit queasy.
Shao Sage opened up some old scars. It wasn't looking good for SUMN, but they had come oh so far. They weren't ready to give up. The stage was set on bind, and after that performance, surely they won't remain unsigned.
But FPX weren't the only ones that fell. The most dominant EU team of all time, G2, won't be at the finals as well. After a back and forth against Heretics, they couldn't hold on to their lead. Despite Mixwell and Ardis' efforts, Nuki was just a different breed. With just one best of 5 left to play, both SUMN and Heretics will get to have their say. But which team will be able to climb higher and bring us that new fire? Right, everybody, we are here and welcome to Berlin, Germany. This is the First Strike Europe, and today Team Heretics will be taking on SUMN FC in the grand finals. But before we get into that, let's take a deeper look into everything that happened this week. Going back all the way to day 1 of the quarterfinals, Team Liquid played Team Heretics and G2 beat August. Guys, I cannot believe after the performance that Scream had on that day one that we won't be seeing him today in the finals.
Yeah, Scream pulled off some amazing performances, but sadly, after all, a team wins and loses as a team. So they have to go back, they have to look at what they did and try to find a way to play better as a team, because even if Scream tried, you cannot win alone.
To be honest, I feel like the Team Liquid versus Heretics as an opening match was the perfect brawl that this tournament needed. It was something that we didn't think will happen, or many didn't think it will happen, but it went all the way. We had like so many memorable situations coming from that match, and it was just exciting to watch and set up a standard when it comes to what we expect from the next matches.
It really set the bar high, but on day two, we had some more action. SUMN FC took down Purple Cobras and FPX beat No Penky. You know, on day two, that's when we saw the SUMN FC Viper. That was their debut, and I cannot believe that was that long ago.
It feels like a year ago or something, right? When that Viper popped out of nowhere and had a one-way setup on A short and stopped the opposing team, Purple Cobras, for 3 rounds in a row. It was amazing to watch. Set up also a nice, let's say, narrative for this tournament where Viper can finally appear in the competitive settings in VALORANT in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why now you and Mitch are just never gonna let me stop hearing about Viper lineups and stuff, and I need to reconsider my main, I guess.
Yeah, well, let's not forget Angel's Viper as well, you know? That wasn't the first time they pulled it out, but he had an absolute incredible day.
Yeah. Angel, you know, we've talked about this so many times. He's such a smart player. He's a mastermind. He seems to just be able to put himself in every position and do so well while like thinking about everything at the same time. I don't know how many brains he has, but he seems to be able to just pull it off every time, except
that one really the most important map of all against SUMN FC in that semifinal. It all fell apart, but well, let's not take away from SUMN FC. Like, they played so well. The third map, Bind, was absolutely beautiful. I felt like just the role reversed, you know? FPX were the newcomers, the anxious ones, and SUMN FC were the veterans that set up the pace. It was beautiful to watch, and I cannot wait to see the finals because it's gonna be 2 amazing teams that no one thought that they will be in the finals.
Well, let's talk about those semifinals, like that you already mentioned. The Viper. Do you think maybe it was a mistake for FPX not play their Viper on Bind yesterday?
I think it was a mistake because they robbed us, you know, out of entertainment.
oh god.
You cannot say if it was a mistake or not. I'm sure Angel had his reasons to play Omen instead of the Viper. Maybe he knew it's not gonna be an easy game to plan out when there will be 2 Vipers on the map at the same time, because it's gonna get chaotic, like really chaotic. The thing that we don't really necessarily talk a lot about is that when an agent like Viper comes into play, it changes the map design because it creates space itself. It's kind of like think about it this way. Phoenix creates the wall and gets space for his teammates, creates it for like 10 seconds or even less, while Viper just does it for an entire round.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and that's what makes Viper such an interesting character to play, but also it also makes it really hard to actually create strategies with Viper because the entire team needs to play around it, and that's probably one of the reasons why we haven't seen Viper this much until now.
Well, we also have to talk about G2 Heretics, because yesterday I feel like is the day where people are going to ask in 5 years, in 10 years' time, where were you when the reign of G2 and FPX fell? You know, that was the day where both of these big teams crashed out of the tournament. And, you know, not just at first strike, but looking ahead, what does this mean, do you guys think, for EU Valorant?
I think that this shows that no matter what kind of backing system, if you're backed by a huge org, you have coaches and everything, no matter what situation you're in, you need to put down the work, you need to play smart, you need to show that you can beat your opponents, because we saw, like, for instance, Team Heretics being so adaptive, so innovative at just moving around the pieces and controlling the pace of the game. And I just think that more teams need to be better at doing exactly this.
Well, with G2, I agree with everything that you said. With G2, I felt like the moment we saw them play against Ogles, they were winning 8-2, then they were winning 10-2, and suddenly everything crumbled. And I think that set up a tone as well to what we will see G2 will have problems with, right? They had problems closing out matches. They are very insanely talented when it comes to singular players, but as a team, I don't think they came here as a favorite, at least in not my eyes, you know? And it was visible already against Auglis. It was even more visible against Heretics.
Well, speaking of closing out games, there is one team that haven't had any problems with doing that, and that is SUMN FC, one of our finalists for today. And joining me is their coach, Mini. Mini, welcome to the show. Congratulations for making it to the final. You tweeted last night that you didn't think that you would be here. Now, having slept on everything that happened yesterday, what are your sort of views on your performance now you have made it here?
I'll be quite honest, I've not really slept that much, so I've not had too much time to think about it. I definitely didn't expect us to win. Like, I thought we could win, but it wasn't like we went in thinking we were the favourites. I think the quarterfinal game, we thought we were the favourites. Semi-finals, FPX, probably the favourites of the tournament, not the favourites to go through. I watched back the VOD last night quite late, and I think we just played really well, to be quite honest. Split, we started off really slow, and like they just outclassed us. But we knew that Haven and Bind are maps that we like, and we just showed how good we are on them.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that you didn't get too much sleep, but also that sort of indicates to me that you spend quite a lot of time maybe anti-stratting Heretics. Is that fair to say?
I mean, to be honest, the sleep wasn't to do with anti-stratting Heretics. It was more just nerves. But today, with my very little sleep, I've had time to prep with Boaster. I think Heretics play a very distinct style that we haven't come across before. So I think it will show a lot of tenacity for our team if we're able to make this win, because this is a different meta.
Well, speaking of things you haven't seen before, well, we haven't seen before, you guys played your Viper in the quarterfinals, but overnight you changed your team comp for the semifinals. Are we going to see even more surprises today in that best of 5?
Potentially. We've talked about it this morning a little bit. The Reyna pick, I'm going to be quite honest, like, I'll talk about it. The Reyna pick was specific for FPX because we thought that they would be looking into our breach play. So we thought that we'd be able to switch the Reyna for the breach and use Doma as the player to carry. And we thought that they would be kind of they would anti-strat our breach, basically, and we didn't feel comfortable running the breach. And then all of a sudden they changed their comp, and we were just a bit confused. I think the reason they changed the comp was because in the Contender Series final, we played them, and they played that same comp, and they won. It wasn't the most convincing win, it was like 13-9. So maybe they were just kind of going back to a comfortable pick for them.
Well, whatever happened, I think you guys just slightly outbring them with your comp change. I just wanted to ask you one last question. You are going to play Team Heretics, a team you guys haven't really played in this brand. I know you played against them when they were sort of known as Inferno before they completed their roster to what it is now. But what are we expecting from this matchup, and what do you make of them as an opponent?
They look incredible, to be quite honest. I fully respect what they've done to get to this point. They've beaten fantastic teams. Their individual prowess is just phenomenal. They've got incredible players. Yeah, so I expect it to be a fantastic game. I think that we're now looking at a best of 5 rather than a best of 3, so it's going to get really interesting. I think that at the start of the series, we're going to be looking at some uncomfortability for both teams, because obviously both teams get to pick the map straight away. I think that we're going to see some uncomfortability early on, and then we're going to go into some stability later on to this series.
Well said, Mini. Thank you so much for the interview, and good luck for the finals today. It's always nice to talk to Mini, you guys. Yeah, I love Mini. You heard it from him. I didn't think it was possible because we've already seen so much creativity and so many surprises, but he said maybe we're going to get even more surprises. Any take on what you think that's going to be?
I actually have a pretty good idea, and it's based on the tried and tested strategy that I had yesterday. The Reyna pick that came through was a surprise in a way, but it was hinted at by Doma over on Twitter. Now I have a feeling we could be seeing him being the flex going on to Sky. And why that might happen would be if they went to an Icebox. Sky has been used a lot on Icebox. I think we could see him pull that out. And it's basically because he also hinted on Twitter that he might take that agent.
Yeah, he
just
literally
yesterday.
showed an animated GIF of Sky on Twitter.
I feel like he's doing that just to specifically bait you because you bit onto the Reyna quite hard.
I did, right? I gave that tweet. I said minus Omen plus Reyna, easy bind. It worked. So I did the same for Sky.
Well, I would just like to argue that Reyna on bind was a non-factor, to be honest. Like, it's not that Doma didn't do anything. He was killing, he was doing his job. But as an utility-based champion, he didn't have any impact for his team. Like, really, all the Leers that were played, they were destroyed instantly. They have no impact whatsoever on the game. If you would have been playing on a champion that had different utility, I feel like you would have brought even more to the table. So I'm not a fan in general of Reyna in like a top tier competitive play.
Yeah, you know, it was actually quite funny because just listening to the interview with Mini, he said that they would put Doma onto Reyna and he would be the player to carry. And in fact, could have asked me before the series, I would have told you this. It was Mystic to carry. That guy in the whole series was dominant, but in that map in particular had 21 kills versus FPX. Now, you might think 21, it's not that many. But when you consider it was across 19 rounds, it just shows the consistency that this guy brings to Viper on that map.
Well, speaking of consistency and speaking of Viper, that wasn't the only time they played Viper. I know in the studio here, we've kind of been drumming that home. But I do want to take a look at their road to the finals because, you know, in the qualifiers, they had arguably probably one of the easier ones. Although, let's not forget, they did also have to play Nemo DM as well in that first week, which is not an easy thing to do. And then they made it all the way here to the main event. So Lothar and Mitch, talk me through what you made of their performances from the quarter and the semi.
You go ahead on that one.
SUMN, you know what, I'm going to just point out something really interesting. And it's going to be a comparison between SUMN and the Heretics. So SUMN in general, 4 players coming into this tournament after all the matches from the main event, 4 of them have a positive KD. 4 of them. In Heretics, only 2 have. Now, what does that tell us is that Heretics had a, let's say, rougher road in their matches towards the finals, and they rely more on their ability to play together, while and they just basically, because of that ability, they claw back into their matches, while SUMN FC has both factors, really good team play and execution. And this is why the KD is all over the place. You know, it's like 1.77 on Mystic, then second is Chak and Mo at 138, 134. So it's, 1.38, 1.34. So basically, they're able to execute both the strategy and the personal performance, which is great to see. Now, when they were playing against each other, that's another story. But I would love to see how the stats will actually tell us a different story as well.
I think it's really interesting, too, when you look at the games, just as a quick comparison. Heretics matches, they've all been pretty close. And when they're winning, it's like double digits for their opponents, at least, for the most part. And when they're losing, okay, they have that odd slip-up. SUMN have the same. The map they lost, the only map that they've lost in the main event so far was 13-4 to FPX. But the next worst result is a 13-8 win, and it just goes down from there. When they win, they dominate.
That's a very, very good point, Mitch. And speaking of SUMN SE versus Heretics, we already spoke to Mini, but we also have Nuki standing by for Heretics. So we're going to ask him a few questions as well ahead of the final. Nuki, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here, and congratulations on making it to the final. We saw you pull out some amazing play yesterday, especially, you know, against G2. Your ace, that was the prime gaming play of the day. Talk me through what was going through your mind when you won. You beat the Titans of Europe with an ace.
Hello, everybody. We were super, super happy. You know, it's like all the work we put in before the tournament, like the 3 months since like we assembled, was really, really like pleasing, sort of say, in a way, because everything, like all the hours we put in, all the tournaments we played and won, it's like a good build up to beat the best team in Europe, you know. So it was awesome.
You've had a bit of a mountain to climb, you know, you had to take down Team Liquid and then you had to beat G2. Do you think SUMN are sort of at the tip of that mountain, or do you think maybe G2 was the harder opponent?
I mean, I don't think some FC is like a bad team, but it's like G2 is like, of course, they were really good. We're not gonna underestimate some FC, so I think they're like really decent team. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think they're like that scary. I think G2 was more scary than some.
Well, you know, SUMN, they like to pull out some surprises. They have a lot of cheese. How prepared are you guys for them? Have you been doing a lot of VOD reviews or anti-stratting around especially what they've been doing on Bind?
Yeah, we watched a few games, but the rest is we're gonna see what's gonna happen. They might change their play, so we're not gonna do too much.
Well, it sounds like you're very prepared. You know, they like to bring out some surprises, whereas you guys have sort of stuck to what you know in this main event. Are we going to see maybe something a little bit different from you today?
We'll see. We'll see. I can't spoil it. We'll see. It's a big best of 5. It might go anyway, so I'll just leave it for like an intrigue.
I love that. I mean, that's just confirmed it all. We are going to go back to the desk and talk about that in a second, but I'm expecting a big surprise now, Nookie. Don't let me down. And lastly, I know you said that you don't want to underestimate them, but they're not as good as G2. So how do you think today will play out?
I honestly still think it's going to be a close game. Like, every game is going to be back and forward, so yeah, that's the only thing I can say. It's going to be a close... We'll see, either 3-0 or it's going to go all 5 maps for one of the teams. That's how I think it's going to go.
Well, 3-0 is definitely not close, but...
it's for everybody, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Nookie, and best of luck in the final. Well, I said we're going to talk about it. We have to talk about it because he was not giving anything away. And judging by his expressions, his body language, and the way that he wanted to tease us, I think something big is coming as well from Heretics.
He was very secretive.
Yes.
Right? So, but yeah, I wanted to touch on the 3-0 point. Like, a final can be a 3-0, but it can be a very close final. If every map goes 13-11, 13-11, 13-11, then someone can just look on a website, oh, it was a 3-0, probably not even worth watching. But it might be a very close final between those two teams, even though the score doesn't reflect it, right? So I'm gonna say we're gonna see 4 maps minimum, right? It's not going to be a 3-0, but I wouldn't be surprised if it would finish 3-0 with just very close matches.
And, you know, we've actually already seen exactly what you're talking about, like G2 and Orglis, right? You come in, you think G2, they're going to smash Orglis. You go on the website later, you know, after work, oh, 2-0. Cool. It was an easy game for G2, move on. It absolutely was not. You know, it was very nearly a loss. So, yeah, just because you win the series doesn't mean you do it cleanly. Now, between these two teams, we know SUMN only win clean maps. Like, it seems to me, if they give their opponents 10 rounds, they're like, let them have the map. Let's start
Reset,
again. You know,
yeah.
we don't want a 13-10 win. We want to go all the way. But over on the Heretics side, they're used to scrapping forward. And I think it's because we've had half-to-half inconsistencies from Heretics a little bit more. SUMN come in, they seem to be that little bit more structured. Like we said, they're the FPX, the younger version, perhaps the better version, who knows? I've heard that they're on low settings, but they seem to be pretty tuned in, seem to be on high performance at least. But when you look over towards Heretics, you know, they do occasionally have these little slip-ups. Now, the teams that they've faced haven't been easy. Liquid, we'll say they're off form, sure, but Heretics are a solid team. They took them all the way to overtime in the last map. G2 then as a second, that is definitely a tougher road than SUMN, who had Purple Cobras, who really did not look good. I mean, they had a player with no kills coming out of the first map, and then on the second, a lot of inconsistencies. So I think SUMN have had the easier road, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be underdogs by any means in this. I think this is probably the hardest one to call that we've had so far between these two teams.
Especially since they play a very similar game to each other, right? If you go into G2 versus Heretics, it was like, G2's probably going to stomp them, you know? But if someone wouldn't just watch closely like how Heretics plays. But in general, this is very similar for me to how FPX and SUMN FC match was perceived, but both of those teams are still, let's say, unproven to some point, right? So consistency, this is something I would love to see from both of those teams, and just to see how they can anti-strat each other, because I feel like those two teams really play structured. They have their average plant time is around 1 minute mark on every single map. Basically, is the same. And what is more interesting for me is to see if they're gonna change it up. Will they do some really just rush B strategies, because that's also working against teams that are not prepared for that, right? So there's a lot of unknown factors that I would love to analyze when we have like breaks between maps.
Well, speaking of maps, you know, Nuki told us that we're going to see some surprises. It is a 5-map series, and we do have the vetoes in now. Wow. Well, boys, this is the day that EU is going to finally see Icebox. We've waited all week, and it's very fitting that it's come at the final.
And you know what? It builds on the narrative of Sky coming out. Now I'm starting to see where that tweet was coming from Doma. They've picked Icebox. So to go through, Descent was picked by Heretics, then Icebox by SUMN FC, and you can go down the bread line like that. So that's pretty interesting to me then. That means, okay, it won't be our first map, but it will be our first viewing of it at high-level EU play. I'm beyond excited. Even if you look at some of the EU games that they've been either low level or they've been show matches, they've been teams messing about. And again, in the run up to First Strike, you're never going to see any teams that were in here, like Nullpenky, for example, taking it seriously. This, I think, is the first real match we've had on Icebox.
I'm going to say that this is even more interesting because SUMN FC have perma-banned Ascent this entire event, and Heretics have perma-banned Icebox this entire event. So, is this their way of saying, hey, we've done our homework, we know you ban Ascent, we're going to play Ascent first? And SUMN FC answering with, hey, do you know what? We also know what you do, so we're just going to play Icebox because you like to ban it.
You know, I don't know how you feel about this one, Lothar, but for me, Heretics picking Ascent, they better be damn confident that someone's sucking it, because they have got a history, right? It's not like someone have never played it, and it's not like when they have, they've gotten wrecked. Now, okay, definitely haven't played against the level of teams of Heretics, but at the same time, the results so far, this is actually the map that Heretics lost to Liquid, and that was a one-man army. I mean, there is no questioning that. Then you look at the G2 game, they beat G2, but again, it was a close one, 13-10, so it's not like this is a god-tier map for Heretics, but I would give them the edge, absolutely. But Icebox, on the other hand, I have no idea how Heretics are going to handle that.
Yeah.
It also depends on the team compositions that we will see, because right now, if I would had to call something, I would say that probably both teams would have to play Sage or Viper on it, just to make sure you can, let's say, clog some entries on this
right?
map. Yes, on Icebox.
Okay,
on
just
Icebox,
making sure.
because it's so important to have like many of those corridors just being, let's say, cut off for the opponents, for the attackers. And it seems like we don't have much experience yet on this level, so it's really interesting to me to see what kind of composition those teams will bring, but also what kind of, let's say, what type of execution they will bring forward as well. Because, in example, Team Heretics on Ascent that you were just talking about up against G2, it felt to me that they couldn't adapt to the way that G2 is playing, and that is a small map when you compare it to Icebox. That is not a map that gives you, let's say, a lot of options when it comes to adapting, because you have set patterns. On Icebox, there is so much things you can do. It's insane. I love the map. The verticality of it, the way the map is built, the amount of passages that you have, the amount of strategy that you can do. And because of the Skybox is also so open, because that opens to, if you play Sova, you can have a lot of setups, lineups. I'm sure Jonas is very happy about it. Then Viper the same. Sage with the slow can also like put it up from almost any part of the map. So it's pretty complicated, but you know, it's a tier S event. Those teams are in the finals. I expect really complicated high-level play from them on Icebox.
You also know that it's going to be a BO5, so the prospect of Icebox coming out is almost certain, unless you're going to completely 3-0 your opponents, which I mean, I would say is rare when you look at most esports, but the fact that G2 have made it to so many finals makes it not so rare in Valorant. But at least in this matchup, you have to expect all the maps. I mean, these are two very closely matched teams. What I'll say as well, though, we built up the story of SUMN FC and FPX as these two teams, they have very similar play styles. And I agree that Heretics and SUMN do in the fact that they're both big brain teams, but Heretics take it down a different route. They're more innovative, not just in the agent selection, but the allocation of utility. We were saying this when we first saw them, right? Some of their setups, for example, on Haven, the way they use Cypher, they don't actually use his utility as in his tripwires over towards C. They'll use them alongside a Sage Wall to secure middle. They'll use it on Garage. In essence, sometimes they use it on the A side. And these mix-ups that they make can really make it difficult to play against them. Combine that, though, with the fact that SUMN FC play so well on anti-stratting their opponents. I mean, they made Angel look a little bit lost. He couldn't even get it. Like, he is the entry fragging utility, your smoker player. And yet we saw him struggle so much because someone seemed to have a read on what he was doing the whole time. And the best example of that, and I saw the memes put out by the Valorant Twitter of the 3 players down below in rope room on Split. Hello, bonjour, bon nuit. It was great. Or Guten Tag, that was it. They had a read on them. Now, Heretics' upside is that when you play against them, it can be hard to really adjust to their play style because they're so used to playing against a certain way, a certain structured Valorant. Well, that's not the case then for SUMN. I think that's something they'll do really well.
Well, we have plenty of things we can talk about in terms of Heretics on Ascent. We've seen them enough now, but we haven't seen SUMN FC play Ascent at all. In fact, I don't think they've played it for a long time. This is the map they constantly ban, but they always float the icebox, you know? And speaking of Ascent, we are into Agent Select. No surprises on the Heretics side whatsoever. This is a trial and tested formula that works. Well, Pora is being playful there and hovering the Viper. I love this. I love this. He's getting in their heads. He's doing some mental games early.
This would be interesting because he would be taking it instead of a Killjoy or Cypher. I'm going to go ahead and say he's not going to do that. If he does, I'm impressed and excited. But yeah, look, there's the Killjoy float right afterwards. Mystic not going over either. Going to be sticking over on the Omen. Now, what I'll say is Niso...
Yeah, sorry, carry on. I just saw that Doma locked in Jet.
Oh, indeed he did. Yeah, a little bit of a mix-up as well. I mean, obviously we've seen Doma raise Reyna. He hinted at Sky, now at Jet. Really interesting. Niso, over on the Heretics side, has been one of the most impactful players in this tournament, especially on Bind versus G2. He was dominating. Ascent is a map that is very much known for Sova gameplay, which is why you see Mo40 lock it in at the end. So I'm excited to see what Niso can get up to on this one. And you combine that with the fact that Pora is one of, if not the most solid Cypher Killjoy players we've got out there. It's definitely going to be a game on SUMN FC's hands and a real test for them on, I wouldn't say their debut on Ascent, but certainly their debut at high-level Ascent.
Yes, well, Doma, Mo is usually the Jet player. We saw Mo play Jet on Split, I believe, and he's usually the Jet player on Split. Doma, you know, a lot of people questioned him coming to this tournament. He's kind of known as a Raze one trick, a very good Raze one trick by all means.
Oh, yeah.
But Doma has played Raze, Omen, Reyna, and Jet. Is he possibly one of the most versatile players we've seen so far?
In this tournament?
Yes.
If I believe correctly, he's the only player to pick the most amount of champions. I mean, sorry, he's the he's the player that picked the most amount of agents in general in this qualifier and the main event as well. So yeah, he is.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic to see. He's 17. He loves playing Raze, and I didn't expect him to be the one that's be flexing so many different agents. That might be an issue for Heretics if you want to break the structure of SUMN FC, because you can break one of their game plan, but they've got another one because they can just all play whatever they want.
Yeah, they've got so many different approaches to each map, down to even the utility they're bringing into the map and then how they use it. And that's what I love about this team. SUMN FC have so much depth, they have so much complexity to them. Doma, obviously, as we're saying, able to flex a lot of agents. Mystic, Omen, Brimstone, Viper. He's using it as a controller. Then we saw Boaster, the Breach, right? He is the Breach. No, because he was the Omen yesterday, swapping over from Mystic's Viper. They are just mixing and matching the agents, and that level of depth is what we need in a high-level roster.
Well, that level of depth is what we're expecting for this matchup as well. This is the exciting part, everybody. This is the first Strike Grand Finals. It is map 1 on Ascent. Take it away, Pansy and Hypop.
Oh, we'll do our best. And honestly, you told me at the start of this tournament we'd be seeing these two teams here. You know what? I'd be scratching my head, but they have proven in the hardest way possible they deserve it. You cannot say they had an easy run. You cannot say either of these teams didn't best the big names. Now, I've got to say though, best of fives do change things. The maps, obviously, you got to play them all, hopefully. I don't want a quick best of three, you know, let's leave that to the side. But this is a new era, right? I thought maybe FPX and G2. Not the case.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting way to look at it because you got to argue that you'd probably prepare for those teams the most coming into an event like this. I mean, both of these guys have, both of these teams have absolutely exceeded expectations, at least on my part. I mean, I haven't been that impressed with a team, I'm talking about SUMN FC, in terms of synergy and coordination since I've started watching Valorant, to be honest with you. That was an absolute masterclass. The thing is, Heretics, you know, kind of saying in that interview, they're going to kind of wait to see what happens. And that's my concern, because those series with G2, the first halves weren't great for Heretics. It took them a couple of rounds, I mean, at some point 6 or 7 rounds, kind of in a row to kind of think of a response to that.
Okay, breathe it in. Guys, girls, everybody else. Heretics going to start this one out looking to do some damage. This is their map pick. This is the one you'd want to come in and look strong on. Of course, SUMN FC did not love this map. We did not see them lean towards it, but map 2, we know it's coming, it's Icebox, but we'll get there when we get there. This is the start. Heretics on the attack. Defensive side will be SUMN FC. What's standing out to you right now?
What's standing out to me is that they've literally reverted to the default that we saw in Ascent the other day. They're going to sit here, they're going to hold on to this space. Niso again was in that position, top mid, just waiting for something to be given up by the enemy team. Right now, doesn't look like SUMN's really all that poised to try and take any map control outside, just controlling that mid lane. And again, really giving up A and holding on to short, really, with that emphasis. A little bit of a lean towards B now. You can see 4 members and Niso rotating through the spawn as well. Now the push comes down mid, look.
Yeah, that short push looks like it's been considered, at least by the attacking side of Heretics. They did play quite patient towards B, but now the burst is happening. Jet's already out. You're going to have everyone pouring through. Killjoy is still tucked at the back of the site, so just purely staying alive, buying time is Chak's main job. And already that job is being done exceedingly well. Bora's gone, but the trade comes in. Now, spike to be planted. Let's see if they posture for a retake, bide their time, or try and get maybe a cheeky pick here.
Planted.
Yeah, Niso holding on to B, man. We've talked about that time and time again this week, how crucial that is in a post-plant for the attacking team. 3 stacked up. Look like they're going to try and play off this recon bolt from Mo. Comes through. Here comes the explosion.
Yeah, they're going to try and play this one back in, but we are looking towards that play coming in from Niso. I want to see if he gets the timing just right. He did before, and he might do it again, but let's find out. Mo with some good trades. Niso finally shows his face, and that's the timing we were waiting for. Lol just needs to play patient, and he does. This looks like Heretics are going to get the first one on the board here as Boaster tries to do everything he can, but you can see this is Niso showing you why that position is so powerful.
It buys so much time. It creates that secondary threat. Again, you've got to worry about the site. You've got to worry about site entry. Using utility to block off B main is such a huge factor for the team retaking. But one thing I will say, again, that was rehearsed from Heretics. They went to their default, the same thing we saw against G2. They wait for those cooldowns on the utility, get the smokes back and whatnot. The thing is, SUMN didn't bite until all that smoke and whatnot dropped in mid. They pushed out short. They got contact. And by that point, you know, Heretics are ready to explode onto B.
Good little first statement from the Heretics, but SUMN, of course, going to be quite, I guess, reserved. Let's look at the purchase. It is a Sheriff coming through, so maybe Doma could do a bit more of damage, but it looks like I don't see a gamble stack. It is just a stack at this point. They still have, who would it be? Mo there, sitting towards the very deep side of middle, just maybe jump spotting or keeping track of anyone pushing up mid. But Doma will get first contact. He does get himself out of danger. Quick little smoke goes up. Nothing lost, no harm, no foul. It does mean they give up some map control, however.
I like this though, and again, Heretics did lean heavily towards B side. And I mean, talk about heavy, it's a 5-man push coming through here. Avover actually going to catch a headshot here. Niso with an entry as well.
They've only seen Doma so far. That was the only player that they'd seen, so there is still danger to be had here. Let's see if those pistols can do anything. So far, the answer is pretty much no. Mystic, not bad, but Boaster now 1v3. If there was a bit more damage done, I could maybe read into it, but for now, just the classic. Probably not going to get him too far. I like the stack, though. I like the intention. Boaster, let's see those moves. Oh. Down you go. Lol's going to get it, but a good start. I like that from SUMN FC. Honestly, the concept of gamble stacking a site that we know Heretics do favor.
Yeah, and again, it plays into that theory. You know, SUMN obviously have done their homework coming to this event. They've done a lot of prep, and you know, talking about the anti-stratum factors, it's already showing early on here. So I'm excited really to see how many variations we're going to see from Summon, whether or not specifically they have anything they want to pull against Heretics on the defensive side to try and break that map control.
I'm going to be honest, I reached out to Sliggy at the start of the day. I think the man's got a great brain for this game. I was like, what do you think makes Heretics so good? One-word response, lol. That's it. He was just like, there's your man. Shout out to you, Sliggy. Appreciate it. But still, Summon buying back in. I do want to see the purchase. It does look decent. They've got all rifles up. Everything's looking pretty comfortable. Of course, Heretics having a little left over here. Two of those SMGs still out to play. Vova and Pora with that. Very serviceable and a bit more of a standard default, kind of taking mid control for now, or at least their half of it. But we have been seeing that jump spotting. This time it looks like Mo has kind of shifted away from it, leaving it more to Doma, but it's going to be Boaster to swing on that mid contact. If they actually get it, looks like Boaster's very aware. Finding comes out, but doesn't push on the peak.
And let's see, Spike making its way over towards Catwalk as well. So I'm not sure if Heretics have seen something they don't like, but Avova and Lowell kind of hesitating a little bit around mid. Doma now just needs to hold contact on market. Wall does go down. Lowell's managed to block off that market angle.
I like that. Mo's going to find Pora, so that's going to at least make them feel a little secure, but the response is the play up short. Nuke's found Mystic, so that puts Chak under pressure. It's going to put all the other players trying to get over under pressure, but they're holding. Heretics want more, and they're going to find more, but not in the way they fancied. Nuki's got him being caught off guard as Doma does find a bit of safety. Falls away, no spike plant yet, no need to over push on this.
And actually, Mo's going to find another kill elsewhere. So just two members of Heretics left now. Avova actually going to TP onto the top of Jen. He's going to find Doma. Niso finds Jack as well.
This is a 4v2, and now the two players remaining are from the same area. Boaster and Mo are both on short. Now the plant comes in. Niso's going to be on that, and it's going to be Avova watching and waiting, anticipating for the play, but didn't expect both to come through from short. Avova, a quick adjustment. Spots one, that's Boaster now tagged up, but you can see it all being thrown in. Has to swing, and Mo's there. Great retake from Summon FC. That could have gone dangerous. You do not want to lose 2v4s. That could be a tilt factor. They kept control. They played it back in well. Nicely handled by Summon FC.
No, really, really good stuff. I mean, initially, Doma played his life very effectively, buying enough time for that rotation to come through on short. But one thing Summon looked fantastic at doing the other day was retaking. And that comes down to that synergy factor. Again, you know, stacking up two bodies in, they go for those trades. Again, another fantastic example of that here.
So that's a good indicator, and it gets them off the starting blocks, which is very important, I feel, for Summon FC, because they're still younger players in my mind. Yes, you know, they've got experience in their own kind of realm and in their own sort of areas, but those nerves can hinder anyone. But for now, we go back into this, and it looks like a very heavy lean towards B. Already ultimate popped. Make it two. Here we go. Boaster's in danger. Gotta be careful. He just soaks that. And that's going to be a problem now. Mo is so isolated, so alone. No support on the way. Can Mo do anything? Yes, he can! Mo somehow is bailing them out. Spins around on a dime and still gets Avova. But now the spike is going to be planted. It's a 3v3 for now.
Yeah, Mo goes absolutely huge finding those two, making it all but possible once again for Summon to pull off this retake. Doma does get the crack in the wall here, and all three are going to stack up. Again, worried about that B main presence, but all these players stacked up. Lowell actually finds the wallbang onto Mystic.
Yeah, Jack now have to be thrown into this one. He knows the time is ticking. Pora's not going to let them get a step forward, and it's shut down.
Clean hold.
Heretics. Very nice post plant. And now we've seen the two looks. We've seen the successful retake from Summon, and we've seen a very solid post plant from Heretics.
Yeah, again, maybe utility is a factor there on the retake. And again, you know, it was definitely a factor for Heretics in terms of holding that. The recon bolt over on that site, absolutely lethal, especially if you've got bodies on the site ready to obviously shoot through that wall past the switch.
Now the money looks like it's going to be depleted enough that will force them into a partial, or at least an upgraded pistol round. So frenzies, sheriffs, bits and pieces, but not too much to write home about.
And Boaster actually going to, again, optimism, I like it. A little bit of excitement early on, but this is what, obviously, what Heretics was so good at, and we've talked about it in that series versus G2, is just sitting so deep. Their default setup allows them to kind of wait for a team to play into them, and it's kills like that we see. Again, you know, pistol on Boaster's side, so it was optimistic with the frenzy.
Yeah. And anti-ecos are a thing that it looks like Heretics are very well prepared for. You can see the patience, the consistency and approach. Doma's been able to get some room, but no one's really heading this way. They're retaking towards middle after picking up 2 kills around this area now. Pretty much 3. They'll be pretty happy with this one, and it's very clean from Heretics.
And Mystic actually able to dodge that one. The paranoia through, find something, but Niso Nearsighted, doesn't matter, still finds the headshot. Doma now, again, no clue where he was, but he does find that one. And a prime gaming flawless coming out of Heretics here. Nice round. Again, good damage control there, good control of the territory around the map. Didn't allow someone to tuck into any small spots and wait for those cheeky little kills with the pistols.
And I think, honestly, controlling anti-ecos like this, so when, for example, Heretics this round are on that full purchase, and on the other side do have the upgraded pistols, being able to control that and maintain and kind of negate the ability to getting picked off and losing weapons is going to be a big skill in Valorant going forward.
And you can tell it's rehearsed. Just that there, Nuki puts the cloud burst on the wall, preventing that breach flash coming through and kind of minimizing that risk from any push.
Okay, back in though. Boaster, a little bit of a switch up. Op is out. Let's have a little check in to see where he's going to take that. Looks like towards middle for now. Doma there too. Ults are up as well, so we could see a couple coming through if needed. And Heretics once again taking their time. However, a different look. Looks like an alien this time.
Revealing area.
A couple of ultimates on the board as well. Recon Bolt going to go all the way above tree. Won't reveal anything, I don't think, but much heavier on. There's a lot of utility down on the entry here, but Poor actually finds Doma on the way in. Chat now holding onto this tree area. He's got to back up. Nuki actually finds Mystic behind him.
Yeah, 2 free picks, no trades, barely any damage done. This is looking gorgeous for Heretics. They'll be very happy on this take. And with that op in play, you really have to consider your options. An incredibly expensive investment.
Yep.
You don't want to lose that, and they are very tricky to make work on retakes unless you're Wardell. Look,
Well,
the
I don't
amount of
know
times I'm like, look, classically, in other games, we just don't see them going for it because, it's really hard to make work, and then Wardell's like, watch me.
Revealing
So,
area.
I've learned my lesson, but for now, someone would probably like to keep hold of these guns, if anything. Boaster going down is actually a big problem.
That's the operator. Yeah. Chat finds Nuki in mid. Mo actually finds Poor top mid as well, but now just want to back out and hold on to this again. Economy-wise, this is it's going to be a tough fight to buy back into this. I want to, and Niso finding Mo isn't going to make it any easier, that's for sure. Looks like Jack's going to be able to hold on to his at least.
Yeah, I want to see the state of the money actually for Summon now. I don't think an op's going to be available. Yeah, definitely not 3K on Boaster. A little unfortunate. I feel as though if they did maintain those 3, you could have maybe forced ball around them.
Exactly. It's awkward now because you've only got the 1 on the board. And ultimately, I can see obviously Doma's got his ultimate available. I mean, Mo's got his as well. You can use those both very aggressively. But whether or not they're going to opt to invest those into this round, Mystic actually, he was thinking about it.
The one thing I do want to highlight as well, I want to see Doma and Boaster get into the game a bit here. 1 kill so far. It's been hard on the economy for them, but if you especially have that jet coming in for Doma, and that's something that definitely caught the desk's attention, you want to show a bit of presence. Especially on a map like this, it can be incredibly vital. But again, it's still relatively early. We are 6 rounds in, but I'd like to see a bit more play. And it looks like they're being a little proactive, so trying to maybe get that work to come in for themselves, bring those pistols into areas where they could maybe at least even the playing field.
Yeah, again, Boaster walking out mid with the Frenzy. This is a different variation to try and get value on these eco rounds. Again, put the pistols to work. Where they're going to be able to find the best efficiency. Poor actually going to swing on this and find Mo. Boaster with the counter flash, but Poor playing this well initially. Oh, maybe not the second though. Maybe not expecting that, but I didn't see it go through in the kill feed. Doma now with the Blade Storm popped. So they have opted to invest a little.
Yeah, this is a bigger investment. That's another gun basically on the board, but LoL's found Boaster, so problems beginning, but look at the surround. There's 2 already coming through middle. They lost mid control, maybe over believing in that Chat could have maybe kept control of that, but with only a pistol, what are you meant to do? Mystic now going to be called upon to do, I don't know, anything. It's going to be 7-1 and it's flawless. Of course, the Prime Gaming flawless there, but it is Heretics going through the motions, it feels like.
Heretics doing what they did in the second half of their game versus G2 on Ascent, which is playing it slow, waiting for control. I mean, the first kill came through with 55 seconds left on the clock there. They're happy to sit there and wait for someone to show their hand, wait to get some information and then react off it. I mean, Pora finding the first one pretty much for free is obviously a factor, but I'm liking this from Heretics because it took them a while to respond and be flexible with what G2 were doing on the map the other day.
I do want to find out as well how many tactical timeouts are available in best of 5 series, just because for Summon, a 6-1 scoreline is very drastic, but it looks like early aggression's going to be called into play, but a Vova's off angle could be a disaster. That's one. I thought the second could have come through, but no. Mo denies it, and Nuki is there. It is going to be traded back through to a 3v3, so still, look at this. Where is the rest of the play going to come from? Mo still wants the information, not allowing any re-aggress from the Heretics side, and you can see all this investment. Boaster, he's pushing this one. That is bold. And maybe a bit of a waste here, but Yeah, caught off guard. That's a bit of a shame. They've retaken the territory, and they've shown why they play this passive hold. Summon, if you're not going to commit all the way, you're going to get caught off like this. I like the intention from Summon. Let's talk about what they were trying to do there.
Again, I think this is down to Summon looking at the game the other day, looking how heavily Heretics leaned over to the B site and kind of banking on that default setup being their kind of crutch, so to say. So the Rolling Thunder comes out. Actually, Hunter's Fury gets invested again a couple of seconds after that. But the problem is, Heretics' default is so deep. It's so deep away from that choke point, they're allowed to play these long open angles. And ultimately there, you know, Summon, they're committed at that point. They've invested the ultimates, they've swung out. They need to double down on that.
And just had confirmation, it's 1 timeout per map for a tactical here. Now, again, it is a best of 5 series, so this is longer, but for Summon, I do feel as though you need to get control of the pace and come up with maybe some sort of theory. Maybe saving it for second half, but if you only have 1 round, that's not much to play with. Anyway, into this we go, a heavy lean towards B, a 4-1 split with Jett, getting attention towards short, trying to maybe pull a rotation, which actually they could do it, but success! Boaster gets caught with his pants down, unfortunate for him, but the hit's still coming in regardless. I don't know if the Heretics still want to commit to this, they could peel away! Oh, LOL could do that, Pora's there! This is brutal to watch, Summon have not turned up this morning just yet.
No, they haven't. Doma still over in heaven over here. But just a clean hit once again. These B takes that Heretics are so good for these clearances right now, and it's methodical. They clean angle by angle, spot by spot, and again, LOL, you know, 15 seconds into that execution, he's walling up, he's finding another angle for someone to worry about, and they get value from every single swing they make.
Now, I think the main point to take away from this is, if you're a Summon fan, this was not a map that they ever looked towards. This was not a map that they wanted to really come into play. This was very much a Heretics choice. We had seen the downside of Heretics on this. It wasn't always just, you know, clean sailing, smooth sailing, but they looked substantially more comfortable.
I mean, they'd lost this to Team Liquid.
Exactly.
And that was, don't get me wrong, that was a brawl, an all-out brawl for them on Ascent. But, I mean, this time around, it comes down to a couple of things
Liquid, is that Screaming Team, or...?
This time it's coming down a lot more to control. And Heretics, you know, dictating the pace here. They're the ones that are happy to take a step back. And Niso the other day in that top mid position as part of their default, just time and time again with finding value. This time around, some have only played into it 2 or 3 times, but they're still finding these executions based on the information they find in the early round.
And just checking in on the score there for some of these players. Boaster, you can tell
he's
when
an animated
he's
chap.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. I do want to say, though, every single player from the Heretics, scoreboard-wise, is turning up, which is a scary prospect to come up against. It looks like they're all finding a good amount of comfort here, and they're getting that ball rolling early. This will be a little bit of an uphill one for Summon, but they're going to force into this with whatever they can. It is going to be judges, it's going to be SMGs. It's a little bit rough around the edges.
Well, the problem is that kill spread is a big factor, especially when we talk about snowballing in Valorant. Ultimates come online. If everybody's picking up kills, those ultimates are all coming along. If it's just one person carrying, you know, you're only really getting that utility usage out of the one person in terms of ultimate abilities. On the other side of things, Summon are going to struggle to get those things online as well.
Cover going out.
Okay, let's see what Summon can achieve with this. I want to look specifically towards them in this round, see what their intentions are. It looks like a stack towards A, 4 players, at least 2 towards the site and 2 towards short. And to be fair, if that means they get the kill on Jett and that maybe opens up the rest of the map, not a bad plan. But Mystic is the one going to be charged with dealing with this. As you can see the Killjoy peeling away in the background. And oh gosh, the accuracy is just filthy from Nuki, and he wants more as well. Doma's in trouble, but Doma deals with it. Doma looking towards him to get that performance building, because we know he is a game changer, but that was all a fake. The spike is still going to be, and look at where the opposing Killjoy is. Look at Pora's position. These rotations are horrible. However, if Boaster kills these 2, it's still game on, but it's going to be a tough task. Gets it in, gets the frag, looks for more! He can't convert it though. Niso still holds on to this, but look at Sage towards middle. That's going to buy time. Such a nuisance play from LoL. That is excellent positioning. Finds Doma as well, looking to just cost any retake potential away from Summon. Pora knows it too well. Information's relayed. And Mo, time to save. Well, I mean, with a judge.
Yeah? How much do you love that thing? Yeah. I mean, the one thing, you make a fantastic point about Pora, the fact that he's able to get so deep so quickly, obviously with the only defender remaining all the way in backside. I mean, Pora set up all his utility in the defensive spawn, so he had that early information. He knows that they can push out and they can stack 3 or 4 people just to clear that one remaining member. then building on top of that, Lowell, the wall goes up. That's more time that Heretics are able to buy and keep SUMN FC away from that site.
So again, I do want to reiterate for those tuning in, if maybe you haven't watched too many best of fives, the way this plays out, it's pick, right? So you might see some one-sided starts. You'll see, you know, very favorable maps here, because you cannot remove maybe the map that you don't like playing. So that's why we get the likes of Icebox next. So again, don't get too worried yet. We look towards, you know, once we get to Haven, if we get to Bind, Split, these sort of maps are the big scary ones. For now, this is playing exceedingly well for Heretics. But it is a marathon, not a sprint here.
I would also just like to say, prep-wise on Bind, we saw how meticulous that setup from SUMN FC was, and how they were able to literally bully their way through that series. With, that map with Purple Cobras. It doesn't look like we've got much of a reliance here on defense from SUMN FC. So I'd be interested to know if this is a little bit. So that poor finds that one.
Oh, they're so sharp today.
Just a little bit of a weak spot for SUMN FC.
Yeah, just a bit. I mean, the problem is, I've got to say it, Heretics, aim-wise, are just on point. This is a full buy from SUMN, and right now they're being walked through. Boaster is trying to keep this together, but paranoid about that mid-presence, and right to be as such. Lowell's been a nuisance in middle, but he's not there this time. Revive comes in, and you're right, look at these late lurks towards middle. The retakes are funneled, and even with that Sage wall towards the defender's side, there is no other way around it. You have to face Heretics. You can't try and get deeper off angles, go on flanks. None of that is being allowed. Check does get poorer. Does he check his corner well enough? No. Trade comes back in, and it's just Mystic now. A 1v4 presented. Let's see how far he can get towards this. Not being subtle, already being heard. They know exactly where he's coming from.
Yep, all utility, but again, at this point, it's the decision you make. Do you go for some damage, try and save your weapon? Again, just get swung and over, finds it. The important thing to note here, haven't seen much in the form of utility usage other than that play out of B main here. Jack, I'm pretty sure, has had his lockdown since about round 5. Avova, obviously, he's got his TP from the shadows. Again, maybe not one that you want to, it's an audible kind of ultimate, but again, when 3 people can swing in B main, find both of those picks on B site, you can leave Niso in that position at top mid. You can leave Nukia in mid, holding onto tiles, because you know that you don't need to sacrifice anything else to get control of the site. If Paul is going to swing in and find 2 every time, leave people lurking.
Ooh, we've got the wall to be popped up. I like this. No ops coming out either for Heretics at all. Doma's got the first one too. That's a bit of a difference. We haven't seen that first pick going through, and they're going to push the matter, press the issue. Nice work. They've doubled down for the trades. Lowell is so good for this. Constant pressure, constant nuisance. Heal comes back in, but he's getting damage. Has to take the fight and loses it. We're finally getting a bit of a bite back from SUMN. But Heretics, they're happy to fight this. The spike is left in the clutches. Where is Pora coming from, though? Let's have a little look as well towards his position. Nuki with a Ferrari peek around the corner. Oh, Heretics, this is just brutal to watch.
Brutal is the word.
Switching sides.
And again, I mean, being proactive in the last round there, I like that approach, but we only really saw it in one of the other rounds where, like I said, where we had a heavy investment. Look at this. Just
nice.
Doma absolutely ripping his head off there.
They need to warm up here. Boaster 3 kills, Mystic 2 kills, Doma 4 kills, Jack 5. It's been quiet. Aside from maybe Mo, you could say, has got 9, but it's not just, you know, the fact of fragging. It's not that. It's to feel warmed up. It's to feel in the game. It's that, you know, once you get, I hate to say it, but having a hot hand is such a big thing in these games. Once you come in and you're starting to feel yourself, the game falls into place.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about it on both sides of the coin here. Confidence boosters. Heretics coming hot off of that series.
Yeah.
Again, you know, they really warmed up towards the end of it. SUMN, you could say exactly the same thing. Hold that thought for the time being. Now we're going to get a lot of territory actually with this Aldo, and they're back all the way up. And we're used to seeing Heretics do this setup on A, the heavy emphasis onto short in this tree and garden area.
Okay. Well, Doma's got himself quite far ahead from the others, kind of securing path and passage. Avova did find Doma. I'm not sure if he was facing that. I guess he was, to be able to give it up towards Heaven, which is a bit unfortunate. Because now they're going to be operating with just 4. Spike is towards the site now, but you can see they're being wrapped in. That Killjoy flank, though, Jack could be a game changer here. I hope we check in on him once he kind of presses this corner. I wonder if they get the alarm bell to ring and they work out that he is going to be a problem. Boaster, quick trade though. 4v3, Mo's low, Boaster low. They've got to commit to this though. Nuki is doing all the damage. And Jack's flank is a little too late in the day. That is going to be 12 getting on the board for Heretics.
And just coming to that point, I made it the style around confidence boosters. If we see this an absolute lockout from Heretics on map 1, yes, we can argue map pool, but you've got to say they're starting on a very strong foot here. This is momentum. It's always his momentum.
This is where we're going to see the likes of Mini making his money, right? If you can untilt your team, if you can get the focus in the right place, if you can rebuild that confidence going into map 2. Because this has not been competitive. This has been very one-sided, and it's hard mentally to untilt from this, to reset and get that confidence back beside you. But it's not over yet. One more round for map 1. We're going to have a little bit of an early play, and it looks like an all-in play as well towards B. It looks like someone just want to get this going, maybe get it going towards map 2. Jack is going to find Niso, but there's so many bodies here, so much utility. It's just a grinder. They're all going in, and they're all dying for it. Rotations are coming around. The Jets on the flank. They are being cornered, and they are being backhanded. This was a welcome to the grand finals, ladies and gents. This is not going to be nice. There is no pleasantries here. These guys are out for blood.
Yeah, I mean, that was an absolute clinic. I mean, my heart breaks for SUMN FC, but that's very worrisome. I mean, I had the questions yesterday, you know, what's left in the tank for SUMN FC in terms of this innovation and the absolute dominance they put on leading up until now. That didn't look like the same team. Didn't look like the same team in terms of, you know, preparation and having these very, very meticulously planned out rounds and default setups. That wasn't it. Again, you could say maybe that is a preparation gap, Ascent being their weakest spot. Yeah, hey, I'd love to be able to say, you know, that's the throwaway. We're in a best of 5.
Yes.
If there's going to be one weak map and that's the worst we're going to see from SUMN, fair enough.
Okay, I think my brain needs to slot into best of 5. It's definitely the start here. This just needs to kind of be brought into context of what a 13-1 can do to you.
Oh.
And there is a discussion, though, of it's easier to lose that quick game, get it done, than having that drawn out, almost going to OT. It can be easier to just go, right, write it off, I'll map next. So if you're a SUMN fan, that's what you're hoping for, is they go, oh, well, we didn't want that one, we're going to build back. We're going to give you a storyline, we're going to give you a grand finals. But it is down to them to put in some work now.
Yeah, and you know what we're set up for? Obviously, we're going to Icebox next. I'm expecting some geeky prep cheese coming out of SUMN FC.
Yep.
That's keeping me hopeful. Again, just looking back to that kind of the emphasis on synergy, positioning, that utility usage. I mean, I'd like to say SUMN are going to pull something out their sleeve here. It's whether or not Heretics, on the flip side of that, are able to do the prep and anti-strat that, because, you know, some of these teams have been avoiding each other in scrims. Neither of these teams really have a lot of reps on Icebox. Well, they can't have, even if they've been scrimming it. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Map 2 brings.
And that's what's on the horizon. Best of 5, of course, so there's plenty still to come. Let's check in on those Prime Gaming highlights and head to the desk to break down what we saw and give you a little lead in on Map 2.
One player remaining.